Sarah Palin and Fox News. That's what I'm going to talk about today. Now, Fox News has recently incorporated Sarah Palin as a consultant. Now, if you have to understand something about the situation politically to understand why Mike Huckabee and Sarah Palin both ended up working for Fox News. Let's deal just with Sarah Palin at the moment. Sarah Palin is a political conservative, a Christian conservative, small government type lady. She hailed from Alaska, in which you had two warring progressive movements. You had the progressive Republicans, or quote, moderate Republicans, and you had the progressive Democrats. And the progressive Republicans largely controlled the government of Alaska. And they did what most progressives do: waste the money. Spend, spend, spend. Palin got into power because their spending was obscene. She challenged not the Democrats, progressive, but the Republican progressives, the Republicans, liberals, the ones who wanted big government. And she largely cleaned house. This angered the Republican Party. But no one paid attention because this is in Alaska. Who pays attention to what's happening in Alaska? This went unreported because the media is not going to report this. They're not going to report the Republicans fighting with Republicans in Alaska. So Palin cleans house there. She makes political enemies. The political progressives on the left, the Democrats, are always going to hate her because she has an R in front of her name. There's no chance of that changing. And the moderate or progressive Republicans hated her because she had kicked them out of power and was largely undoing all their big government schemes that they had wanted to keep in place because they were getting money from large corporations, just like the political parties in the Democrat get large money from organizations and union groups and etc. Which I consider unions corporations too. Now, so she was truly a maverick in the true sense of the word. Now, she comes into recognition by John McCain comes in and he picks her as a vice presidential candidate. And she came on the scene, and the second she opened her mouth, the political left and all the progressives on both sides of both parties, all the progressives in the Democrats and all the progressives in the Republican Party, hated her instantly. The news reporters hated her instantly, and they attacked, and they attacked, and they attacked her enemies in Alaska through frivolous lawsuit after frivolous lawsuit after frivolous lawsuit. 26 lawsuits, all of which she was deemed to be innocent on, but each of them costing her millions of dollars to deal with. And they lawsuited her with frivolous lawsuits, swamped her with frivolous lawsuits to the point that they were going to bankrupt her just to get her out of power. And that's why she stepped out of power, because she could not afford to keep fighting all these lawsuits. Because lawsuits were totally frivolous, but the people throwing them were throwing them out there like you would throw out paper planes. You know, you burped today. That's against the law up there. Lawsuit. You know, investigation. And none of them turned out to be. She was guilty of none of them. She was found innocent in all cases, but she was being swamped with these lawsuits. So she's spending all her time in court, spending all her money in court, and she's being bankrupted because she's a political enemy of the progressive movement, who frequently use courts to force their will upon others. So now she's out of political arena. McCain lost, in large part due to his own stupidity, thinking that progressives would vote for him instead of Obama, when you have a choice between a progressive Republican and a progressive Democrat. Who do you think progressives are going to vote for? The Democrat, of course. So he lost, and we now have women in power. So what does Palin do now? She writes a book that's very successful. People who have actually listened to her, people who have actually watched her, not simply read what's on the Huffington Post about her, like her. When she talks, people generally like her. She sounds sweet, she sounds nice, she sounds intelligent. So, how's she getting her message out? The conservative movement has talk radio. We talk fondly of her. We interview her and such. But the general media, outside of Fox, has no interest in really talking with her. They have interest in catching her, getting her. And if they're going to have an interview, it's going to be, I'm going to catch you. I'm going to find a gotcha moment. So she needs to get her message out. How do you get your message out to the general population? Fox News. One, they're going to hire you on because Fox News is friendly to conservatives. And two, they're friendly to Republicans. You have a conservative Republican, guess what? Fox News is the source you go to become a voice and be able to express your message. And that's ultimately why she ended up at Fox News. Now, if she runs for president again, it'll be largely based upon her statements at Fox News and the impression she gets across on Fox News, where she'll actually be able to talk to the viewer directly instead of going through a progressive media source like CNBC, NBC, CBS, CNN, etc., and going through those sources. She can actually now talk directly to the viewer, so the viewer can get a direct feel for who she is. And if she uses that as a position to launch her election campaign, good for her. It's really thinking outside the box on her part. Anyways, that's what I have to say about that. Thank you very much, and God bless.